Chew on This, where we practice theology as a community in the reality of our messy lives. This discussion comes from our Maranatha Forest Lake Wednesday night church, the pastoral preaching notes, and the live large group discussion these notes prompted, something we like to call a community-based learning experience. Pastor Orlean, your host, has been ministering as part of Maranatha since the inception of the church almost 45 years ago. She loves studying God's Word, sharing what she has learned, and encouraging all to chew on this with Jesus and others. Along with her passion for Jesus and solid theology, she loves spending time with family, hiking in the woods, and taking curious and peculiar pictures. So come on, chew on this with us.
Have you ever played with a package of yeast? Do you even know what that is? Have you ever seen a yeast cake? I know for some have no concept of what that means, but it's one of the reasons why you get bread. It is something that you put in while you're baking that creates this reaction inside of whatever it is sitting in, and it makes it raise. It does something. There's an activity happening that changes the chemical reactions and things going on inside of that, and the things that mix, and ta-da! You have fluffy bread, or you have fluffy biscuits, or whatever the different things that yeast goes into. But it's a cause and effect. And it's interesting today on the program, we're going to be talking about what happens when that cause and effect happens in us. Well, what does that look like? What is the quote-unquote yeast going into our life, and what is it supposed to do? There is a reaction that happens, and do we notice it? Do we take advantage of it? This is Pastor Orlean Hasseltine, one of the executive pastors here at the Forest Lake campus, along with Pastor Michelle Ingram, our discipleship pastor. And both of us thank you so much for joining us this Monday for the first half of our discussion on Chew on This. The second half will be broadcast on Tuesday at noon right here on WAJC Your Life Radio 91.7 FM. This discussion was held live with the Wednesday night crew at Maranatha's main campus. We are on the 7th episode in our series, Letters from Prison, Week 7, Colossians chapter 3 and Colossians chapter 4. Dun, 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 2 chapters. And we are talking about living raised, hence the question about yeast. Living raised, this idea of living raised. Not living raised up, because that just sounds, I don't know, kind of hokey in my head, but living raised. It's like, that's weird. It doesn't make sense. And it's like, of course it doesn't. It came from my brain, and so it's there. And I'm thinking, all of this encouragement that we find in Colossians 3, Paul is giving to us as a encouragement. It is, this is who you are. Don't ever lose this. There's a sense of sweetness. We've talked about this before, Michelle, in Colossians that just still has caught me by surprise.
Yep, his love letter to them.
Yes, and it would be now when people ask what book should I start with in Scripture. It's the first time delving into the Bible. The Gospel of John is great because it's, in my opinion, Jesus' very best friend. John wrote it. You get more of the heart of the view of Jesus in that Gospel. It's great. But then I would say go read in Colossians. Go read that, because that is a church Paul is writing to, knowing that they've got it. They understood what he was talking about.
Yep.
And so when you read through it, the encouragement that he's giving them is, don't forget.
Yeah.
You're already doing this. He's not saying do this, because you're not doing it much like he did in the book of Corinthians. But he is saying, no, continue here and protect this. So I guess I would say that the book of Colossians is a lot about protecting what you have, protecting your family, protecting your culture, protecting who you are, and encouragement to every human being on the planet. Be careful when people want to come and adjust your life for you, because usually they don't have you in the middle of it.
Yep. And the way you said that is, so when they want to adjust your life for you, instead of you figuring out what it is that Jesus wants you to do.
And I love that, I don't think we ever have to worry about Paul being bold, but I just love about his boldness and saying, no, No, you need to be careful. We covered that in, I believe it was in episode 6, no, probably episode 5, talking about Gnosticism.
Yes.
And the different things. And that's such a fun official word. And it's spelled Gnos.
Yes.
Gnosta. It's something like that. Tisoneieo. And it's a funny looking word. And I like when you look at it, it's like looking at the word gnat, the GN thing going on.
Yeah.
And because it's still here today.
Yeah, very much.
Just this past Sunday, my husband preaching and the things he was talking about, and I wanted to sit in the back. That's Gnosticism. That's Gnosticism. We just talked about that on Wednesday night. And it covers that where it's kind of right.
Yeah.
It's kind of there, and actually it just makes you a little more holy. It makes you a little more special. And what a joke, as if the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ doesn't do that.
Right.
And so I love his careful heart, which I've never seen in Colossians because I haven't paid enough attention when I'm reading through it to get through the Bible in a year or 2 years, whatever your plan is there. And it's just a shorter letter to a church that probably wasn't causing much problem.
Right.
Not much problem, just a little problem. And so he says those things. But there's a specific reason why. And I believe after we've gone through this all, that there was a person that Epaphras told Paul is trying to do this thing again. Why don't they just leave us alone?
Right.
It's because you've organized this amazing community and they want to steal it from you. They want them to follow them instead of following Jesus. So in that loveliness, we're going to be looking today here on Monday and tomorrow on Tuesday's show. We're going to be talking about, obviously, Colossians 3 and 4. 4 is basically just a nice warm hug, just a very quick recap, and then talking about the different individuals. We'll talk more about that tomorrow on Tuesday's show. But today we're going to be going through Colossians 3 and looking at this four-part thing that happens in Colossians 3. There is this concept of setting yourself as a person. There is this word set that just really, if you've ever made Jell-O and you work with gelatin, you can tell when it sets because there it goes. It still wiggles, but it's not liquid.
Yep.
It is amazing and crazy and weird, and it is fun to play with your food. When my mom was alive and going to visit her at the nursing home, and her memory at the end was maybe minutes long. She was a goldfish, you know, and sweetness, because she was about 5-ish or so in her skill level, but very sweet. And it was wonderful to hear some of the caregivers talking about her being sweet and that freedom of that coming out of her personality at that part of her life. But she would look at things like Jell-O, and it wasn't food to her because she didn't know what it was. And watching her reaction, it's funny. Jell-O is funny. It is a funny food. So we're going to be talking about this idea of set. It has nothing to do with Jell-O except the concept of making something more solid. And then he talks about putting things to death. Talking about this, how do you do that process in your world, in your life? Anybody who has been in support of them themselves has walked through sobriety. This idea of putting things to death in your life. There's things in our life that you just can't feed. How in the world do you take that out of there so you are not feeding it and putting other things that are good for you into your life practice? The things that build your character and build your life and build your relationships. And then there's this, after we put things to death, then Paul says, okay, get rid of this, but then I want you to put this stuff on. There's a list, and it is a list that recurs in all of his letters. There are these things, and they're not new words, but we'll be talking, probably ending here Monday's show, we'll be talking about those things, but then carrying that on into Tuesdays because there's such a nice list. And then after all of that is done, and he says he brings it home and he talks about a very short snippet of home life, what that's to look like. What is life like in your home culture? It's almost like this little, by the way, I tell this to everyone, because he really goes at it in Ephesians, which is the next book we're going to be studying in a couple weeks here on the program. We'll be starting the book of Ephesians and dancing and skating through all those amazing scriptures in Ephesians. And what was the church in Ephesus like? In my understanding, it was the hub church back in the time. And I've said this before, that's where John the Apostle went. They believe that Jesus' mom Mary, since John is now her son, is in responsibility for her to making sure she's safe and cared for. They believe she was there, which just blows my mind. Could you imagine going to church with Jesus' mom? Hey, Mom, what was he like when he was 2?
Did everybody call her Mom?
Yeah, I wonder if they did.
Yeah.
I'm sure they had a specific term of respect and love.
And care.
Yeah, I wonder what that name would be. We can, take not a lottery. We can make it into a game and see who comes up with the best word of honor for Jesus' mom and what they probably did in the book of Ephesians. But we're a few weeks away from that, so we won't get there quite yet. But the process of this chapter 3, and then chapter 4 is just a conclusion and a wrap up, kind of consolidating all he said in the first 3 chapters, that it is a very sweet love letter being handed to us. So we can see the kindness and the love in Paul's heart. He's not, as we know, not afraid of conflict whatsoever. But the beauty of this, that he's telling them, he's not saying, he's saying, don't be afraid of conflict either, because you know what? You've got the right thing.
Yep.
You don't have to adjust to anybody's trying to possess or take over or move you and adjust you into their structure. You already have it. There's no adjustment needed. So here's step 1. We're going to talk about this wonderful word set, S-E-T. But before we get there, there's another fun word. I love when I find a word I've never really recalled, or I've read it and never taken the time to go look it up. Words are fun. Must play with them. There's this word called paranesis or paranesis. Who cares, right? It looks like piranha. And it's actually a literary term, and it means an introduction, any kind of advice, instruction, or counsel. That's its original meaning. But somewhere in New Testament studies, somewhere in about the 1920s, it became an actual word used in literary genre. And it's a string. It's talking about a string of loosely connected ethical imperatives. Often including a list of vices and virtues, household codes, and examples to be followed or shunned. In other words, it's what Paul does in every single letter. So because so much of the New Testament is ethical imperatives, vices and virtues, do this, don't do that, household codes, live this way, and examples to be followed or shunned, so they decided that there's now an umbrella term, that paranesis, there is a term that it is by way of reaction. Okay, many scholars, they understand it in terms of ancient meaning for any kind of instruction, moral or otherwise. It's an ancient meaning, what it meant back in the day. Back in the day, this is what that meant, and it was always turned to some kind of instruction, whether or not it was moral or not moral. So if it's an instruction, it falls under this paranesis, it falls under this certain concept of study, of literary study, so of a genre. You see, this falls under, I like the vice and virtue list. It's a vice and virtue list. So that is Paul's specialty, because he never says just the vice, don't do. He always has this virtue.
Right.
You remove this, you put this off, or in our case, we're going to call it put to death. Then you put this other stuff on. So just for the fun of it, there you go. If you can say paranesis in conversation today, you get 25 points. Not sure what they're for, but seeing if you can, that sounds like a whole paranesis process.
Yes, exactly.
That you're listing vices and virtues for some kind of ancient, I know, I can talk about my young life and its ancient meaning. This was the paranesis of my youth. All right, we're not going there, but now we're going to look at Colossians 3. We are at Colossians 3, 1 through 4. And here is the beginning of this. This is the beginning of this step, this 4-point process that Paul is basically concluding the letter to the church at Colossae. And he says, since then, you have been raised with Christ. You have this relationship with him. You already have this. I've been telling you this over and over. Don't let anybody steal or correct what you have or try to adjust you, because you have it right. Then he goes on to say, set your hearts on things above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things, for you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. Beautiful encouragement, but he uses the word set twice. That you set, because your life is now hidden. You're in this safe place under God's wing is one structure we can use to understand what he's talking about. So when we see the word set, what does set mean? I mentioned the concept of Jell-O setting earlier here in the program just a few moments ago. And think of Jell-O when I read these definitions. Actually, setting is a 2-process activity. It's a 2-step process, put it that way. So set process A is you estimate, you evaluate, you analyze, you do your research, you assay, A-S-S-A-Y, I love that you assay, You get 15 points if you use that word in the next 3 days. You judge, you decide, you prize, you value, you learn. So there's this process of setting. The process, say, the beginning of it is you're doing your investigation. Would you use that word?
Yeah.
You investigate. You look, but you don't stop there. So investigation is great. I enjoy, especially if I have time. I love to investigate.
The rabbit hole.
Oh, yes, but sometimes you can get stuck in the rabbit hole.
Yes, you can.
It's like put a sign outside our office door. I'm stuck. Someone come rescue me. Okay.
Help.
Yes, help. So there is set process B. Then there's this other thing that happens where it's fixed. You have agreed, you have established, you've done something because these are action words that have happened. You've arranged, you've concentrated, you've chosen, you've picked, you appoint, you adopt, you prefer, you orchestrate, you determine. So there is something that happens at the beginning of set that changes and it turns into Jell-O at the end of set.
Well, and to make good Jell-O, you do the first part first. You mix all the right ingredients the right way.
Yes.
You do all that. Same thing here. If you want to make a good decision and make a good place where you're set, I think a cement, concrete.
Yes.
You have to mix it correctly. You have to get the right ingredients. Okay, what am I going to do? And then if I'm going to set myself on something or set my mind on something, I need to know what it is that I'm setting it on.
Yes.
And I hadn't thought about this, how it is a two-part process, and really solidified it, set it in my mind.
Yes. And we'll be coming up with a list because, Paul gives him a list of what to build on. Put this to death, but then build on this. He gives him a nice little list, which is so
helpful,
easy to do. And he wrote it on the board last night, and he's looking at me. He's like, "Really, Orlando?" It's like, "Yeah, I know. It's not new." And that's what's the beauty about studying some of Paul's letters right in a row. That this is what he meant. It's not complicated, but it's hard.
Yep.
It's hard because we don't live in a society. Here was an example I brought to the floor last night. Okay, now I was really, Lauren, I love you. Yes, I know. And for those of you who've made life choices, or your body has told you have to make life choices about what you ingest, what you eat, and you have removed things out of your diet because you don't feel good, you're allergic for whatever reason. And I cannot eat dairy. I'm actually allergic to it, and try to watch the sugar because I don't feel good. It actually makes my body ache, much like flour. If I eat regular glutenized flour, I get body aches. It's just, so good. You can tell you've gotten it because your legs feel like they're going to crawl off your body. So all of that stuff, really careful. And, it really comes into become a problem when you want a treat, all right? And I don't want to eat a sucker, little hard sucker, because you can get those, but they're solid sugar, but they have usually fruit juice now instead of putting the colored dyes in it. So that doesn't quite work for me when I want chocolate. And chocolate has dairy. Really good chocolate has dairy in it, right? So you've got the cocoa and you've got the milk or the butter. So good. Well, this company called HU has this amazing dark chocolate. I mean, you have to like dark chocolate. They do make a milk chocolate, which I can't have because, once again, it has dairy. But they have this dark chocolate, and I discovered it. And it has different varieties. You can get mint stuff chopped in there. You can get almond butter. You can get cashew butter. And you can get just sea salt dark chocolate and sea salt. It's so good. And I found one that has cashew butter in it with the essence of orange. All right. Really good dark chocolate, coconut sugar, essence of orange in cashew cream. Oh my. Oh my.
Yummy.
But yeah, it is. And you don't need a lot because it's just intense. But trying to find that candy, I mean, you can look for it. Over the holidays, I searched and searched. You were the recipient of one of the things that I found, and sharing that with staff for those who are not eating sugar or those that don't, it's pretty clean when it comes to candy. Well, I found some with the cashew cream with the essence of orange in it, and I brought the one that I have left, my bar, and I brought it into the group last night, and I showed Lauren my bar, and it's like, here, Lauren, this is the concept of set, this idea of what he's talking about. I can give you the bar, and you can decide with me. We're making set process, say we're evaluating it. This is good chocolate. This is clean chocolate. This is prized chocolate, because sometimes that bar can cost $8. I mean, and it's just a little bar, and all of these things. It's amazing, but you are not set in that chocolate bar unless you open it and eat it.
Right.
Then it becomes what it's supposed to be in your life. You have to open it, you have to eat, you have to enjoy it. And I thought about opening it, but then I thought, then I'm going to have to share it with everybody who wants, and there won't be any left for me. And I was very selfish and said no, because that's my chocolate bar. But trying to figure out the idea of you can be set A, you can think you're doing it because you have it in your hand, but until you start practicing, ingesting it, and letting it affect your life, you're really not in the process of setting. So to do step one is actually a two-step process. You evaluate and realize what you need to do, and then you have to do it. You actually have to go through the process of doing it. So there is this three-step process that anytime we are in the process of growing or doing something or making decisions, this is just my processing. This is me. We look, we find, we use. You can look and find all you want, but unless you use what you find,
right,
the look and find does you no good.
Right.
You can search for something hidden. Look, I found it! But if you don't take it, you have to take it. There's this action that comes, and this is what the whole set conversation is about. You can research and learn, I love, but if you don't apply it, sucks to be you.
It's useless.
Yeah, it's useless. Well, you can use it to intimidate other people, but it's still useless. Yes. When you meet and accept, then you must do. So there's this action process that Paul is talking about that is natural in our growth, in our development as human beings, that he takes this into the vice virtue list that we talked about with that wonderful word with the P, paranesis or paranesis, the piranha word. Paranesis. No, it's paranesis.
Paranesis.
It's the re is the accented word.
Yeah.
Paranesis or paranesis.
Yeah.
That's when I hear it, I do go check it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that word you said, paranesis, that is something to do with that, unless it's parasites. This doesn't have anything to do with parasites. Isn't it funny what you think? The etymology of things, is that related to the parasite word? I did not go do a study, but I'm looking at it's like, well, no, it's a vice virtue. So here, after all of this is just step one, set. You have the process of evaluate, and then you have the second part where you actually establish, you actually do it. And then he goes into this conversation about putting things to death. Put it to death. And I don't mean to be crass with the statement or make it sound funny. For some, put to death means nothing, but for others, it's a hard phrase to hear. But he actually means that. We're going to have a funeral for these things in our life. These things are not supposed to be there. So it's not like we just don't do them. We kill them.
Yep.
We bury them.
Yep.
We get rid of them. So what does that process look like? Holy cow. I mean, holy cannoli. What do you do when you have that as your process? Is there ignore it for 2 weeks and then refuse to say the word that describes it for 2 more weeks? I mean, what is the process? Anyone who's gone through any type of sobriety, they get that process, because you are putting to death a process of your life. Anybody who's gone through any life-controlling issue, there's things in your life that you will be putting to death. The loss of a really important relationship. This type of process is part of it. We do this as human beings all the time. It's not pleasant. There's ache. There's frustration. There's failure. It's all part of this, and that's why there's the strong term. These things are harder to get rid of than you think.
Yep.
Your human nature is intertwined into so much of what you do. And some of them, like, let's just use the example of gossip. He doesn't specifically deal with gossip, but the process of sharing information so you can belong to a group, sharing information so you can control a group, sharing information so you can establish yourself in the group. I mean, you take away the way you navigate by sharing intense information. You take that out of your life. If that's how you've navigated and become part of a group or found yourself of importance, learning how to not do that in a negative manner is going to be like cutting your tongue out.
Right.
It is a crazy hard, but seriously, just don't say bad things, or just don't do that. But when it is your lifeline and how you have discovered a way you can belong in a group, it is putting it to death. We will continue this portion of the conversation when we come back. Right now, we're going to take a break for station ID. And when we return, we're going to put into conversation the whole concept of put to death.
Such great discussion and content. makes you want to dig in even more to the Word. We'll get right back to it shortly. In the meantime, here's more information about the church and where to find this show and many others like it.
Maranatha has campuses in Forest Lake, Minnesota, and Chisago Lakes, Minnesota. We have been serving our communities for decades, well over 40 years of loving God and loving people. Enjoy what you're hearing here? Visit yourliferadio.com for links to our other radio shows.
We would love to have you join us at one of our Maranatha campuses. Visit yourliferadio.com for links to both of our campuses for more detailed information. Now, back to chew on this.
Put to death. In Colossians 3:5-9, it states it this way. Put to death. I'm reading out of the NIV. First three words. Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry, which, for some odd reason, Pastor Michelle, my brain, when I was going through this and prepping, greed is as idolatry. We live in the land of greed. We live with it.
Yes.
I don't even think we realize how much it is ingrained in us as human beings. So I was having one of those, I don't have time to have a Holy Spirit moment right now. I want to get this done. I want to get this done. But I just encourage everyone, every human being, take up and look up the words idolatry and look up the words greed and just look at the definition. And give yourself 7 days to take and look at that and see if it shows up. Does this anywhere in my life?
Because you can have greed over all kinds of things. It's
like
not
my
just
candy
money.
bar.
People.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Time.
Your lifestyle process, your lifestyle.
We can have greed in all kinds of places that we don't realize.
And it's idolatry because it takes the place of Jesus because it becomes our most important thing.
Yep.
And it's just listed in there as this little extra, and greed, which, by the way, is idolatry, so don't do that. And then he goes on in verse 6, because of these, the wrath of God is coming. And he's saying it to them that way because you guys know this. This is it. These are the things that you are going to use as your litmus test. When you start seeing that, it's like, oh, no, you're dead. You're dead. You can't be in me. I will not act on that thought or that feeling. You used to walk in these ways in the life you once lived, but now you must also rid yourself of all such things as these: anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips. So the question is this something Epaphras talked about, or is this something that he has as a list that he knows is in every, especially people coming out of the type of lifestyle that they were, where you were worshiping other gods, and that means nothing to us in our society today because we don't speak that way.
Right.
But they were coming from a life where your lifestyle of worshiping the gods that were in charge of the land involved things that were probably, we would call sexually immoral. We would probably call half of them illegal. I know in the city of Corinth, they had the temple on each side of the waterway, and one was filled with boy prostitutes and one was filled with girl prostitutes. And I use those words, boy and girl, because they were very young. Yep. And so it is... you'd get arrested in today's day and age for this stuff. So he's talking to them. They know this. This was normal and normative in that area. This was how life was. But I'm telling you that those things are dead. Those things are not going to be part of you. So they knew what that was. They understood anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips because that was how you controlled your life before. So even us today, we know people we can use anger to do that. People who sometimes you get in such a process that, especially because you've had something in your life happen and you have a short circuit there, it doesn't give us any right to use anger to put people in their place or to control or to dump things out of our being so we're not so intense. But he's saying it's just gone. We're back in the set one, set process A, set process B. You've learned that this isn't good, so now it is gone, which means you've identified what it looks like in your life. You can tell when it's starting, and you interrupt it. Yes. You can look at your watch. You can pull your earlobe. Usually what I like to do is physically stand up and move, because when your body moves, it interrupts that thought. You stop it. You stop it. And then you learn what it seems, how it starts, where it begins. Is it where you get a rush in your body, where something really irritates you and you can feel your pulse increase? That's when you stop it. You are learning. He's saying these things are going to be coming out of your life.
Yeah, you don't just stuff it. You don't stuff it down.
You just don't pretend it's not there.
Exactly.
That's usually when I read it, I just pretend it's not there.
No.
Well, I don't have a problem with anger. I'm just sweet little Susie Q. People wonder. It's so funny. My husband does not look like sweet Mr. Susie Q. Okay, so I would use a phrase, but I won't use it here on on the program, but he walks in a room and you can, people who ride motorcycle love to talk to him. I mean, not that that's a stereotype as well. Let's put it this way. People who live on their motorcycle and live on it and and belong in groups that live on their bikes, they have no problem. So I'm coming along and I'm with him. And I remember sitting down at a table. We were traveling somewhere and sitting someplace and having a meal and individuals there. I was absolutely invisible.
Yeah.
Because I had nothing. There was so right when they look at me, it's like I would have no anger or rage. I don't know what. I don't know malice or slander.
Right.
Just look at my dimples.
Exactly.
Right? And I have no problem with that being their first assessment of me when they see me. But the problem comes is when I don't think I have it, because that list is my list just as long as well as everybody else's.
Yep.
It is easy for us to swim over there because it is normal. Our flesh wants to go that way.
Yep. And if we think anger is only the explosive anger, you can have a stewing anger. You can have all kinds of anger. You don't. That's why, it says. David said, "Search me and show me."
Yes.
Because we don't always see what is really there.
The word vicious comes to mind because you don't know what's there. It is like that creepy little spider that you don't know and comes out and bites you and you die.
Exactly.
There is that craziness. So take a look. I want you to rid these out of your life. This you know. This you know. And then he goes on in verse 9. Do not lie to each other. Don't lie. The little song in my head. Don't lie, don't lie, don't lie, don't lie, don't lie, don't lie. I don't know where it came from, but it's in my head. Don't lie, don't lie, don't lie. And so that you just don't. It doesn't say it's not good for you. It separates communities. It makes you look like a moron when they find out you're lying. You're behaving like you're two. And no, just don't. Using lies to manipulate, to get what you want, to create your own reality. All of that, he doesn't go there. It's like, no, there's just no excuse for lying. Especially when, this is one of our favorite conversations, when it comes to conflict.
Yes.
Oh, there's nothing wrong.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. It's like, no, you hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And I don't expect any change in this situation. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze here. You've hurt my feelings. I don't expect to change in this situation. I just need you to know the way that you said that, or the way that you looked, or the way that you handled that, for some odd reason makes me sad. And I don't want you to think when you look at me that I have a problem, but I can tell you recognize I pulled away a bit here. And I just found that a little bit offensive. I'm not sure if you understood why I found it offensive. Here, let me share what this word means to me. That is a conversation I wish every human being on the planet could have, because I am shocked when I'm the one who said something offensive. And I know we encourage each other around here because I'm old enough that I have phrases in my head. The meaning has changed. Right. And I'm not allowed to say that because for myself, I make myself aware that I'm choosing not to say that because it's diminishing. And it's from the Marx Brothers, and there's a cartoon, Animaniacs, and there's a cartoon character in there who says it all the time. Yeah. It's hello, whatever. And it's funny. And now I just say, hello, governor, instead of the other, because the other one was a term towards a woman as a sexual object. And I didn't know that because I just don't. And it's like, oh, that's what that's from. And I've seen the Marx Brothers. I've seen the thing. And it's silliness. It's all unbelievably amazing silliness. But the comment today has a different. So he's saying just, okay, don't lie to each other. If that happens, say, I don't think you know what you're saying. And that's what it took. A friend of mine said, I don't think you want to say that. It's like, okay, teach the old person new tricks. Let's go. So don't lie to each other since you have taken off your old self with its practices. So he's talking about step number 2. Step number 1 was to set, which had 2 processes, to evaluate and then to establish. And step number 2, put to death, which destroy. If you look up death or put to death, it means to murder, to slay. Slay that. Slay's kind of fun, kind of a word. Murder is not. Eradicate. Eradicate is good. Destroy is good. Exterminate's even better. Kill the thing.
Kill the thing. Take it out of your life. Exterminate it.
Like having too many mice in your house when they aren't supposed to be. Exterminate the mice. All right. So, but how do we do that? So he talks about our earthly nature, which has a tendency towards sexual immorality, which means we want to satisfy ourselves sexually regardless of what it costs other people, and blah, 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 that is the goal of our life. We live, unfortunately, in a society that has pumped that up to a certain place, and it's like, nah, that isn't, it's such a mess. means more today than I think. Maybe it's equitable to what it meant back in this day of what it was used for. Impurity, well, my goodness, could we just take the dictionary and put it under that word? Lust and evil desires and greed. All right, so how in the world do we destroy, exterminate, eradicate, slay those things? In Galatians 5:24, it says this: those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. 1 Corinthians 6:18, flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. I mean, it is something that hurts another person, but you are hurting yourself in the process. You can't separate that. Ephesians 5:3 says, but among you there must not even be a hint of sexual immorality or any kind of impurity or of greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. So we're putting greed and impurity and sexual immorality, they are listed on the same level. One isn't in front of the other, one isn't more.
Yep,
and I love
one's not a better sin.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on,
I
Michelle.
might be greedy, but at least I'm not sexually
immoral.
immoral.
That's right.
That's how we do it all the time. Yeah.
Well, I don't do things like that. I just imagine them. And so we find it listed again in Galatians. We find this conversation still in Ephesians 5. So those things are to be separated from us. Paul is adamant. So because he is adamant, we know that Mr. Paul here, Apostle Paul, has seen them destroy. He has seen them in his life before he met Jesus destroy, because I'm assuming I'm assuming greed was a big one for him. And then he definitely seen them destroy communities that he was trying to help grow. Because you need your community. I don't care what time you were born in.
Yep.
You do not have a healthy life without people in your community that are there to be with and to practice all these things on.
Yep.
So I think he's seen that happen. I'm not sure how many small groups of communities they started that were destroyed by the person coming in saying, follow me, and then do what I do, because I have a better way to Jesus than Jesus had to Jesus.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And just what he would have seen as a Pharisee, all of those things, that the law, how it could not make you stop those things that he's listing. It needed to be Jesus.
Well, that's why Romans is such an intense, crazy book.
Yeah.
You and I are in a study as we're trying to go this. And he's like, you can't. The role of the law was to tell you you can't.
Right.
It isn't to tell you that you should do all these things, because if you do them, you're better than other people, which is what we do as human beings.
Right.
Every single one of us, you give us a list, we prove we're better. All right. But he's saying it tells you you can't.
Right.
And that's why Jesus is the only can. There isn't any way to any of this without his help, his process, his love, his acceptance, his come be part of my family, come be, this is your community. And as a result, the people that are gathered there too, this is now your community. So come, and then the Holy Spirit will help you. So here we have this, have a funeral for these things. These things need to be out of your life. So we identify that they're there. Just like when we put something on, when we set something in our life, you're going to identify that these are part of your life. And then you're going to make a note. When I see this happen, I am going to do this. My first thing is I'm going to pray. After I physically adjust my body, I get up and move, interrupt the thought, whether it's self-destructive thought. Right. So much of it, that's where I practice it the most. When it's you are this, you're like, oh no, I'm not falling for that. And get up and move. And then you continue to do that, and the episodes between it coming up and bugging you get longer and longer in between. And every once in a while it pops up again because something has hit that scar. But it's not rocket science. You just interrupt it and you don't give it any ground. And sometimes you have to phone a friend. Pray for me right now because this is really hard. So there's that community thing. So he knows what he's talking about because he has seen it. And he says it in every letter. There's the vice virtue list. Ephesians is really rich with the household code and the vice virtue list. And so here he's giving the church in Colossae, he's giving them a shortened version. I'm not sure. I don't remember which letter was written first, but I'm going with this one was written before Ephesians.
I think so.
Yes, I think we put them in order when we listed.
Yes, that's exactly what I think too. Yeah, that we put
organized
them in order. Yes, this Philemon they think was the first one.
Yes, that's why we started there.
Yeah.
That's why you got that, because you preached the opening one.
Good.
Yes,
yeah.
I know. I remember you saying the things. And that is in this podcast series. It's our very, I think it's the third one. The first two were all background information. But yes, so here it is, okay? You have this, you've taken off these old self or old practices. We understand that, we identify them, and we refuse to give in to them. So there is a shortened term of how to do that. But then in Colossians 3:9-17, he tells us, starts out in 9, do not lie, to lie to each other, since you've taken off your old self and its practices. And now he's telling about putting on. Here comes step number 3. So we had step number 1, which was set, and the twofold process of evaluate and establish, and then put to death. Okay, you have to identify, and then don't do them. Whatever you need to do, you just don't do them. You figure that process out. I know this is a really abbreviated. There's long-term process to that. Don't do that. But then in Colossians 3, he says, do this instead. He calls it put on. Put on the new self. Okay, and which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. And this whole concept, when it says later in verse 12 to clothe yourself, that concept is like put new skin on. It is taking off your old skin and putting on your new skin. It's not like taking off a jacket and putting on a new jacket. So he's talking about the essence of who we are. He's using poetic language in here of, I know what I'm talking about. This isn't simple.
And he's not talking about covering it up.
Correct.
He's talking about an exchange that can happen.
Yes.
Yep.
Being born again, that's where that phrase comes from. This is going to, and this is possible. Of anybody who could say that, this dude could, this guy could, because of where he came from.
Exactly.
And he had so much power and authority and wealth in his old life that it's crazy that he would turn it in for being the vagabond and being put to death because of what he chose to do. So here in verse 10, and put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. So it's the process of being renewed. So it's a process. It's not like a light switch on or off. Yay, process. That's why you have community. And here's the beginning. Here there is no Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and in all. So how in the process do we I'm going to make a little bit of paper noise here. Here we go. I got to take this one out. So how he's listing that here there is no. So, all right, there is no of this. So verse 11, standing on his own, he's giving us a list. I want you to be renewed. I want you to put this stuff on, put on the new self. And here right at the beginning, like number 1 is, there is no Gentile, Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all.
So I had to go look up barbarian and Scythian, because I thought, what a weird, they seemed weird to me in this sentence. And a barbarian was any foreigner who was ignorant of the Greek language. It was not used like when we say, what a barbarian, we mean it in a degrading way, and that was not how it was used back then. It just meant you didn't need Greek. You didn't know Greek.
So you couldn't talk to barely anybody.
You couldn't talk to people.
Or the upper echelon specifically. You would have no voice and control.
Right.
Okay.
And then Scythian was somebody who was rude or savage or rough. And I did not even, there was a country called Scythia, where modern day Russian is, but it was the wildest of the barbarians. So it was people who didn't understand it, didn't come from it. So they weren't necessarily disgusting people. They just didn't know the way of...
Ignorant.
They were ignorant. Ignorant, that word that we've been using around here recently. Ignorant. They weren't stupid. They just didn't know.
They just didn't know. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I love it when your brain does that. Wait a minute. There's more.
Yeah.
Why is he listing this?
Why this? Yeah.
Paul, are these your friends? Do you know barbarians? Conan by any chance?
Exactly. That's what we think of.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Exactly.
So this list comes in really, really handy. Okay, but before I do that, I want to talk about the word renewed. He's talking about being renewed in verse 10. It means to be rehabilitated, reformed, transformed, changed, converted, new, restore, recreated, regenerated, resuscitated, reconstituted. That's my favorite. To re-engineer. And the other one, there's Rikudes, I believe is how it's pronounced, and it means to continue. So all of those things, being renewed, it's talking about process, it's talking about growth, it's talking about change. So there's going to be process, which means there's time. There's growth, which means there's definitely change. It is continual. There isn't an end. So this idea of being renewed, it doesn't end. Oh, I'm all done being renewed.
Yes.
No. It goes until we meet Christ in eternity.
Right.
So we are now new in Christ. There's this process that it goes on. We are being re-engineered. It is definitely the opposite. The antonym of renewed is complete, finished, and conclude and finalize. And we think that's the thing. We think that's it. It's like, no, wait a minute. He's talking about the complete opposite. Don't look for an ending. There is no ending. It is an eternal process. So here we go to put on. And he's in verse 11, and he says, okay, so all of this renewing is happening. And we're going to start out the list with, there is no. Why did he do that? In Romans 10:12, he says this, for there's no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord is Lord of all and richly blesses all who call on him. Okay, and then in 1 Corinthians 12:13, he says, for we all were baptized by one Spirit so as to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slave or free. And we're all given the one Spirit to drink. And in 1 Corinthians 7:19, he says, circumcision is nothing and uncircumcision is nothing. I mean, go ahead if it's part of your history of who you want to be, but spiritually speaking, it doesn't make you more spiritual. Keeping God's commands. Yeah, that's what counts, this renew process, all right? And in Galatians 3:28, there is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free. There is no male or female, for you're all one in Christ Jesus. Amen. So that's it. Yep. So what's he saying? As we finish out here with Monday's program, what is Paul talking about here? This, you can easily brush past it. Oh, that was for back then. Oh, we are so going to learn in Tuesday's show. We'll talk a little bit about it, but when we get into Ephesians, we're going to drown ourselves in this concept that, in my opinion, get used to me saying this, I think he has had it, and he is saying, boys and girls, let me tell you, I am so done with watching you treat people like property, like you own. I've been there. I was the worst of this because I was better than y'all. I could still be better than you all if I wanted to live in sin. But I'm telling you, you got to get over that. You got to get over the measuring stick. Him and Peter having the argument ongoing that they thought they settled it, and then he started doing it, and people started following Peter back into living in his historical manner, which he could do, but he was saying it was more spiritual. Right. And Paul's like, you can't do that. Peter was doing it again. The rooster crowing 3 times again. All right, so there's that thing. And Paul's like, that's what you're sacrificing here if you do that. You cannot have this measuring stick. And he listed in all of these letters that he writes, there is none, so stop it. The number one way that you can renew yourself is you can quit treating people like property. But Pastor Michelle, I don't treat anyone like property. Well, do you think you're better than other people? Right. Do you get impatient with others because they're not educated like you or economically at the same level, or they think they're better than you, or they're different sex than you, or they're different body shape than you, or they're older or younger than you? Especially as you're older, you think younger people really don't have their brains together yet. I mean, what is it? There is this thing. You have to quit measuring the human race by who has and who has not. And you can't be the one that always has and treating people like they're property because they're just not good enough.
It's the dismissiveness.
Yes.
Dismiss
and it's
someone.
Sin. And it comes from the heart of self-aggrandizement, which is owned by Satan. It's evil. This is an evil that Paul says, you want people to know that you love Jesus? Get rid of that. There isn't, and it is so hard in our society and in our culture because we like to control other people. And one of the best ways to control them is to say, you're not as important as me, or you're not as valuable as me, or you shouldn't have a voice like me. And I know people are going to think that I'm all woke, quote or whatever, which isn't used as much anymore. No, this is scriptural. There is this, everyone coming to the table with self-respect going every direction. There isn't categorizing. And he's saying this must die. There is none of this anymore. So let's stay here for the next 15 years. And then we will continue on. So this is going to be the conclusion of today's show, Monday's show. And I want to invite you back to come in on Tuesday and to hear the rest of this conversation on the process of being renewed. And all of the things that Paul lists that we can do, that will grow, that will happen when we put to death the old self and we can celebrate all this amazing stuff that grows in us because of the Holy Spirit and what Jesus did for us on the cross. Please come back on Tuesday for the rest of this discussion on Chew on This.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of this week's episode of Chew on This. Part 2 will air tomorrow, Tuesday at noon, on this station, WAJC. If you'd like to check out this episode's resources, as well as a great archive of past series, head over to yourliferadio.com. Select Chew on This and click on the information icon. We invite you to join us live each Wednesday night at our Forest Lake campus at 6:30 p.m. Original music in My Father's Hand was written and performed by Ron Carlson. A parting thought, as we're all learning to put missional living into practice, let's remember today, wherever we find ourselves, let's love God and love people. See you for the next Chew on This episode. The opinions expressed here are not necessarily those of the owner.